So last week, I went after Ben Shapiro because he went on Laura Ingraham's show to do a whole song and dance about how he loves free speech and the left is against free speech. And now my issue with Ben Shapiro was he's defending Laura Ingraham from a boycott to try to take her off air because she made fun of one of the Parkland kids she was talking about his low grades and he couldn't get into college and yada yada. And so there was a boycott of her. Oh, get her off air. I can't believe she's, questioning the intelligence of a Parkland student or whatever. So he's defending her, but you can't do that and act like it's a free speech issue when you wanted to get rid of MSNBC hosts and you started fucking petitions to do so. So pick a side, man. Pick a side. Now, the news today is it appears he has picked a side. And in my opinion, he's picked the right side. So take a look at this. Here's why that nasty Fresno State professor shouldn't be fired for her gross Barbara Bush tweet. So now we have an issue of there was a left-wing professor who, when Barbara Bush died, she said this, quote, Barbara Bush was a generous and smart and amazing racist who, along with her husband, raised a war criminal. Fuck out of here with your nice words. So here's somebody who's on the left, says something that garnered a lot of backlash. People on the right instantly became free speech hypocrites and said, fire her, fire her, fire her. But to Ben Shapiro's credit, he came out of the woodworks here and said, okay, you know what? No, don't fire her. And of course, he says he's not defending her on the substance of what she said, but he's defending her on the principle of what she said. So namely, how can we as conservatives, turn around and protect our own when conservatives get fired for offensive speech if we're in favor of the lefties getting fired when they do offensive speech? So there's an easy solution here. The solution is don't fire any of them. So what? Somebody spoke on a hot button issue and had an unpopular opinion. Let it be. Because now he's beginning to realize that principle matters, because you have no standing if you try to defend one of your own on these grounds if the second there was a case of somebody disagreeing with you politically, you were like, yeah, I'm fine with them being fired. So glad to see that he came around and now he's principled on the issue of free speech. And I would say to him that, listen, there are plenty of people on the left who are principled on this. I'm principled on this. The ACLU, an entire organization, is based on this principle. I mean, they defend civil liberties across the board. It's not just free speech issues, but they've taken up Milo's case. They've taken up, cases of the KKK, and just simply on principled grounds. Their whole argument is, I don't like or agree with anything these people say, but they have a right to say it, and we should be clear that that's how a civilized society functions. That unless you're doing, libel or slander, which are notoriously and correctly hard to prove, unless you're doing a direct threat of violence, or unless you're like doxing somebody, you basically have free range to say whatever the fuck you want. And it's good to see that he changed his mind and he's being principled now. And I would hope that other people on the right who love to harp away on this issue would do the same. Because listen, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed by people who cloak themselves in this issue, but do it really as a shield. Like Richard Spencer, for example. He's sued on this issue. Oh my God, and the university won't let me speak. I'm suing. Now, I actually agree with him in those cases in that he should be allowed to speak. But here's the hypocrisy. Then he turns around and bans journalists from covering his speech. You just sued on First Amendment grounds, and then you immediately decide you're also going to violate the First Amendment because you're a fucking idiot and a hypocrite. And really what they do is they use free speech as a shield to basically let themselves get away with saying odious things, but immediately flip on the principle of it when it's somebody they disagree with. So I'm sick and tired of the charlatans on the right who just use this issue and don't actually believe in this issue. But to Ben Shapiro's credit, even though he was a hypocrite on it in the past, as evidence for calling for the boycott of MSNBC hosts, now he appears to be more principled on it, and I commend him for that.